Exactly how do we tackle online harassment? Well, there's a brand new chatbot that launched this week that is designed by young people for young people all around the world. But exactly how effective is it? Well, we have Jocelyn Brewer, the founder of Digital Nutrition. She's a psychologist joining us, and technology writer Nic Healey, who's also the breakfast presenter with ABC Western Plains. Jocelyn, I'll start with you. Introduce me to Maru. What is it?
Maru is a chatbot which will help you deal with and I guess guide you through what to do if you're being abused or harassed online. So it works like many chatbots. It uses NLP, natural language processing. So basically it kind of guesses and has learnt what kinds of questions that people might ask in this space and the way that they might frame them. And they kick off a conversation to help you actually navigate through what to do if you're experiencing all the different forms of what we in Australia, I guess, would commonly call cyber abuse. So the eSafety Commission kind of has a whole section for adult cyber abuse that includes things like doxing or deepfakes and stuff like that. So it literally is a little not human thing which will help you navigate that information to try and, I guess, get the help that you need when, given that the research that Plan did around this was that huge numbers of women and girls are experiencing harassment.
So this, as you mentioned, does come from the girls' rights organisation Plan International and the technology collective Feminist Internet. Nic, just on a visual level, what does it look like? Because they've sort of designed it to quite actively avoid sort of gender stereotypes. It's been quite clever in that regard, but how do I interact with it if I was the target audience for it?
Look, it does look like a chat window, and it's really quite fascinating to have a play with because it gives you options of how you want to respond, but they're very natural language, as Jocelyn was saying. So essentially you feel like you're engaging in a conversation. You're not typing your responses. You're choosing from a limited range of responses. But it does feel like a fairly natural conversation in a chat-style window.
And Jocelyn, from your standpoint, how effective do you think it is?
It's a really cost-effective and effective, I guess, way of looking at what are some of, because it gathers information, I guess, as you go based on, well, what are you asking questions about and which kind of issue are you experiencing? So it's actually gathering data as it goes and then directing people to, obviously, the trusted sources of information. So I think it's effective and it fills a gap to the degree that it can maybe help with some lower level experiences and then direct you on to the right actions to take. So your local, police or your eSafety Commissioner, if you're in Australia, for instance. So it's that intermediate step that's really helpful and it meets people in a space that they're really comfortable.
That's my just concern with it is how it is, I guess, marketed, for want of a better term. I'd want to make sure that people using it understand that it's providing information. It's not a counselling service, which I just worry when we hear the term chatbot, given that there is such a rise of that great chat-based interfaces when it comes to counselling, that people do understand this is about information.
Yeah, and I think it works pretty quickly. Like one of the first things it will say is, are you safe? And you have an option to indicate, am I safe? No, I'm not safe, but I don't know what to do. So that then will open up, I guess, the next decision tree of what you want to answer as to where you are and then direct you in the right place. So I was conscious of interacting with it because I was like, well, I'm not being harassed, so I don't want to take up your time. And then I was like, oh, right, but you're not a person, you're a bot. It doesn't matter, which is exactly, I guess, why it can be so effective is it doesn't, as long as the back end can manage lots of queries coming in, I'm not necessarily using up, a counsellor at Kids Helpline's time by exploring that with an actual person, I guess.
Do you think it changes our behaviour, the sorts of questions you ask, if you realise there's not another person on the other end of the line?
Yeah, so the anonymity effect, I guess, is what drives a lot of the terrible behaviour online, but also is what allows people to be more authentic and take bigger risks with asking for what they need. To some degree, I think you might actually be more honest with something if you know that you're not necessarily being tracked or you're not face-to-face with another human, let alone just, typing to another human. So, look, I think it works in different ways for different people based on what their concerns are.
Just specifically with tackling harassment, Nic, are there other programs out there that have stood out to you as being particularly creative in how they deal with online harassment?
Look, nothing like this, and I think that's what's been really intriguing about it. This is taking it to a level where it's approaching the people who are being targeted in a way that they can feel comfortable communicating, comfortable talking about what's upsetting them, as well as giving them access to the information they need. I don't think anything's done it quite as intriguingly as this.
There was a little while ago, I don't know whether anyone caught the goodness bot.
No, what's that?
Or the kindness bot. Goodness or kindness? I can't remember. Monica Lewinsky had announced it, and it basically, if somebody had tweeted you something a bit mean, you tweeted the goodness bot or the kindness bot, and it would tweet you back the kind of more positive version. So it would almost CBT the yucky tweet. It's something worth having a look. I remember I used to feed it things for a while there on Twitter.
It's the opposite of feeding the trolls.
Yeah, you get the kindness bot to do it for you.
I love some of this innovation, and even on a more basic level, I know this year a text-based counselling service really took off for people in regional and rural areas where maybe an app wasn't perfect, maybe certainly a web chat wasn't great, they weren't comfortable talking to someone face-to-face, but actually texting back and forth with a real person was an incredibly effective way for them. We're approaching these mental health concerns by targeting what a person is capable of opening up to. And I think that's really essential. And we've got to get as creative about that as possible.
All right, there is lots more of this in the podcast of Download This Show. We're also talking about technology to track your pets. So if you've ever wanted to track your pets and want to spend a bunch of money doing it, check out the podcast of Download This Show. See ya.